Ugh, I gotta organize these paints better. Oh, hello. My name's Chad, and welcome to today's episode of setting up a camera and pretending to be surprised that I'm filming myself. On today's exciting episode, we are going to be painting that guy. Yep, Beholder Zombie. Right there. He is from the Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures line, made by WizKids, and I'm going to paint him up because I thought he'd be a fun, easy model to paint. And a Beholder is always a great model if you are running an RPG campaign to throw at your characters, like that. There. Now you know how to do it. Professional GM tips, no extra charge. These models come pre-primed with Vallejo Gray Primer, but I don't want to do that because we're gonna do some different painting techniques. So the first thing we are gonna do with this model, doing that. Does that show up on camera? I don't know. First thing we gotta do is paint this guy matte black. I'm gonna be using Army Painter paints for everything, mostly speed paints, but a couple of regular war paints and one wash. Only one, and that's it. No more, no less. First thing we gotta do is tape off the flying base. This is a sign for flying base, in case you didn't know, so you can impress all of your friends and teachers and relatives. Okay, once we got this bad boy primed in black, we are going to do what some people call slap chop, some people call razzle dazzle. I think only one guy calls it razzle dazzle. He was trying to get it to catch on, but I think that was suggested by some of his viewers on another YouTube channel. But it's also called grisaille, it's called underpainting, whatever you want to call it. We're going to start with black and we're going to dry brush up successive highlights. It will be very, very overly complicated because this step did not require as many layers as I think I did, but we're going to do them anyways, and I'm going to show you the whole thing. Okay, as we paint through this, I will put up all the Army Painter paints on the screen because I remember what most of them are, and I have a lot of them written down on this piece of paper I have. Don't look at it, it's cheating. And but I'm going to put them up on the screen anyways so that you can write them down in a notepad like this. That's not a notepad at all. Outrageous! The first layer is going to be hardened carapace. We're going to dry brush that very liberally. So liberally, you don't even know how liberally we're going to dry brush it on there. And then we're going to do some uniform gray. Get a little bit of that on there. And we're going to mix the uniform gray in with the hardened carapace just so we get... I was trying to go for a gradient, but I don't strictly believe this is necessary. I don't think you need to do this. I think you could just do hardened carapace and then uniform gray and so forth and so on. But I wanted to overcomplicate the process, so I did hardened carapace and then a mixture of uniform gray and hardened carapace and then eased into uniform gray. Once we got the uniform gray on there, then we did the same process unnecessarily, easing into spaceship exterior. And then finally we gave it a lighter dry brush of matte white, including a dramatic pause there for no reason, but I'm not going to edit that out. You're just going to get that as part of the video. This is one of the many services I offer, is pausing unnecessarily before finishing my statement. Now, as I said, this was unnecessarily overcomplicated, and I think you could probably get away with just doing two colors and not mixing them in between or mix them in between. You know, do whatever you think is going to work. I think I used too many colors. You didn't need four. You probably could have just went with hardened carapace and uniform gray, or uniform gray and spaceship exterior with just like a touch of matte white at the end just to kind of get the highest of highlights. But, you know, you do whatever you think is going to work well. I wanted to try it. It didn't turn out terrible, but I think there were a lot of unnecessary steps that just added time that didn't need to be in there. Now, while I was doing all of this, at some point the eye stalk fell off. And that's okay, because it just pressed right back in. And it hasn't fallen off since, so I didn't glue it. I don't think there's a reason to glue it, but the eye stalks are interchangeable. This model comes with two sets of eye stalks. So you can swap them out if you want, and but I didn't glue them in, and I think it was fine. I'm not gonna do it. Nobody can make me do it. You want to try to come over to my house and make me do it? You can try, but I'm not gonna listen to it. Now, as you may have noticed, a zombie beholder is dead, or undead rather, but at some point in order to become a zombie beholder, it had to be a dead beholder, and I wanted to simulate the blood pooling at the lowest parts of the body like it does on a corpse in real life, because realism is everything when you are painting a giant floating eyeball. That is very important. We painted top half first, and I used Crusader skin. And that's doing the top half of the body and the eye stalks. The bottom half of the body, we jumped in with that Hive Dweller purple to give it sort of a gross blood pooling effect. Like all the blood in his body drained down in the bottom, and that's just where it settled. And because his circulatory system no longer functions, that is where it's going to stay. After that, we jumped over to the base where I used mostly dark wood, but a little bit of absolution green to just sort of plop it on there. Plop, 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 plop it on there. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Just do whatever you think looks good and use different colors if you want. That's what I use, so I can't tell you a different color, but you can try a different color if you want. It's okay. If anyone questions you, you can say, Chad said it was fine. He says totally fine, and it is totally fine. But as you apply them, just sort of mix them in, and you don't mix them so much that you lose all the colors altogether, because the dark wood will overpower the absolution green just because there's so much more of it. But just sort of get it on there, and the edges will blend themselves away. You don't have to do too much with that. From there, we jumped over to the inside of the mouth, which I painted with Malignant Green for no reason at all, which you will see in a few minutes. Nevertheless, I did it, so I'm going to talk about it. I did Malignant Green inside the mouth and on the tongue and all that jazz, which is located inside the mouth if you wanted a free anatomy lesson. The tongue is located inside of your mouth. If your tongue is ever not inside of your mouth, then you should probably seek medical intervention. But being that as it is, we used Malignant Green, and that did not really quite do anything for me. So we're probably, definitely, there's no probably. This is not something that is happening in real time. It has already happened, so the Malignant Green will definitely get painted over. But as I did that, I also painted some Malignant Green and just little splotches on different parts of the Beholder, just because I wanted to give him a little bit of that bruisey, gross, greenish yellow color that you get. And it just seemed like a cool thing to do, and it worked out all right, so I'm glad I did it. From there, we did the teeth, which the teeth I did in Zealot Yellow, which I also did some little splotches of Zealot Yellow on the body and eye stalk of the Beholder, but that gave the teeth kind of a gross yellowy tobacco color that you would expect gross dead teeth to have, especially in a monster. They do not have very good dental insurance. Now we'll give this thing a quick once over. Now that it's dried overnight, which is kind of a good thing to do if you're ever not really sure what the next step should be, especially when you're using speed paints, because they look, to me, fundamentally different dry than they do wet. And it gives you a good idea of what you can expect when you use them in the future. Sometimes when you're putting speed paint on, they just don't, I don't know, you just look at them and you're like, I don't really know what this is doing, but I hope it's doing something. And then when you see them all dried the next day, then you're like, oh, damn, that's pretty cool. And that's the situation we had in this case, is I was like, oh, damn, that's pretty cool. That's literally what I said. And it'll hold up in a court of law, trust me. But now that we've got the thing all dry and looking cool, we're going to repaint the inside of the mouth, as I said we would. Remember back then when I said we would repaint the inside of the mouth? And so the Malignant Green will definitely get painted over. This time we're going to use Blood Red. And originally used Malignant Green because I think I was getting a little ahead of myself with the rot, dead, decay, gross, bloating, bruises, zombies, Romero, stuff like that. But I didn't like it, so I just went with Blood Red. Even though I don't know the inside of your mouth would really be red, maybe like a black or purple may have been better to use Hive Dweller purple or Grim Dark or something like that. But I used Blood Red over the Malignant Green. So if you like this effect, then that's what I did. So you can copy it. And I don't mind. There's no copyright at all. You can use those colors. I'm okay with it. I'm not okay with it. Don't copy me. Okay? Please, that's mine. You paint yours different, okay? I also got some on the teeth and the lips of that Blood Red. That was a weird way to say that sentence, but I'm gonna stick with it. I stand by my statement. I didn't mean to do it, it just sort of happened, and but it's all right. I mean, things have blood and maybe bit his tongue. I don't know. Okay, well now that we got speed paint liberally all over the eyes and the spikes on the chin,
Chinny chin chin.
We are gonna go over that with Spaceship Exterior to bring them back to a color that'll work a little better with speed paint. The eyes, that's the color I want them to be, so we don't need to do anything to them. But the chin, we're going to do some more stuff to it. So they need to be a color that will work better with washes and things that we're going to do. After reading my notes, I realized that I did that so that I could wash them with Army Painter Light Tone Wash. So that's all part of the plan. But the eyes will stay spaceship exterior, and then we'll paint in pupils with a little uniform gray. Once I got the pupils painted in with uniform gray, which kind of gave it that cool zombie, Walking Dead milky eye look, we're gonna go over it again with a super, super thin down matte white. And I don't know what the ratio is. I just sort of mixed it until it was where I want it to be, but I'm gonna say it's probably like 5 parts water to 1 part paint. It needs to be super, super thin. Like, it should not be changing the color of anything when you apply it. It should just be mostly water with the idea of having paint in it almost. It's so thin. Now that we've got the eye with this really cool milky zombie look, we gotta make it look irritated and gross. So for that, I took a little more of that blood red and I put it as eyeliner around his eye. This is pretty cool. Now, of course, that creates kind of a hard line all the way around the eye, which we don't want. So we take a damp brush, and it's just a clean brush, dampened with a little bit of water, but not enough water that it would, like, liquid would come out of it, just damp, and then go around the inside edge of that line on the eye, which will kind of feather it out. So then you just sort of get this, like, Visine Clear Eyes commercial redness that, you get a Ben Stein come up and put some drops in it to heal that thing up real good, but he's not here. Bueller. There's no Ben Stein in this video, folks. We have a no Ben Stein policy. Although seriously, I like Ben Stein, especially in Ferris Bueller. So if you want to be on the show, Ben Stein, I will show you how to paint any miniature you want. Not very well, but I'll show you. But once we got that done on the big main eye, then you can go around and do that to all the eye stalks. And this is not precision work exactly. You just sort of get some blood red around the edge of the eye, and then you get some of it off with a damp brush. So make sure the brush is clean so you're not smearing, residue of blood red all over the eye itself. Use my finger to just wipe off the center of the main eye, and that seems to do the trick, and it looks real good. It looks like that, as a matter of fact. It looks remarkably similar to that. It looks like that. Now that we've got the model painted, we have to take it off of the base, and apparently I bought the world's strongest double-sided tape. And so I had to get a little backup here to pop it off there. And apparently the curse of the zombie beholder continues because the glue cap is glued on tight. Super tight. It is not coming off. So I just take the whole cap off the top of the bottle, pour some out onto the cardboard, and then I put the cap back on and use it as a makeshift brush, because I'm gonna throw this bottle away anyways. Once we get the model glued onto its base, and admittedly I did not do a great job, and I have no intention of trying to fix it later, we can peel the tape off of the flying base. The flying base stem, I guess, if you want to get incredibly particular, but I think you know what I mean. Oh, you don't? Oh, well, you see, this part here, I see what you did. You tried to trick me into over-explaining simple things. I'm not gonna fall for it. No. Now, I don't have a video of me taking the Scotch tape off of that, but I think you can probably imagine what that was like. I have made a mistake. Now that we got it on its base, we got to touch up the edges of the base that apparently I didn't get paint on for some reason with a little bit of dark wood and absolution green. And then I used old school Citadel, what the heck is that thing called? A mold line remover. Yeah, Citadel mold line remover. I know they've re-released it recently, but this was one of the first ones they came out with. And I used that to scrape off any of the extra overspray that got underneath or around or through the impenetrable force field of the tape, which I guess makes the tape not impenetrable because it was penetrable. It did. Now, to kind of finish this off, the icing on the cake I thought would be to get some cool veins on there coming up from the bottom of the beholder over the top of its head. I tried to do that with some absolution green and some hive dweller purple, but it did not look good at all. So I just, to get it off there, I just gave it a little dab. No, I dabbed it with my finger. Right, yes, like it's showing here. See, I'm dabbing it with my finger. So since the veins aren't gonna work out the way I liked, I think we're just gonna call this model done. So we're gonna get it a coat of matte varnish, which is also Army Painter. Once the matte varnish dries, I usually put on 2 coats. Once that dries completely, I waited till the next day, but you could probably do it after an hour or so. Then I got a bottle of Army Painter gloss varnish. I don't have any gloss varnish, but this is what it would look like if I was holding a bottle of gloss varnish. I used up the rest of the gloss. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Never mind. Strike that from the record, sir. But now the last step is to make the eyes look shiny. And even though I realize that if you were dead, your eyes wouldn't retain moisture. So I guess it's kind of one of those things that doesn't make sense, but makes sense, because whatever reason, adding that gloss varnish to the eye just makes it look creepier, more realistic, even though it's actually less realistic. But I did it and it looks great. And now we have a completely finished Beholder Zombie, or Zombie Beholder. I don't have the package and I can't remember which way WizKids puts the two words. So you do have a couple of options there if you want to swap it around or build something a little bit different. And you don't have to follow this painting method or these colors. You can do whatever you want and paint your Beholder Zombie, Zombie Beholder. But this is how I did mine, and I think he turned out pretty good. It's not a great model. You know, the flying stand has some residual paint on it. As you can see here and here and here. And sometimes time is of value, so I'm not going to dink around with that. When you're holding it out at arm's length, you figure most models are going to be 18 to 30 inches away from you, whether they're on a table or you're holding them out in front of you. I mean, people don't typically walk around with models out in front of them, like this. Maybe people do. I don't know. I have not seen it happen, and just making this worse over here. But, so it doesn't have to be perfect. This is a super big photo. It's like 20 times the size of a zombie Beholder Zombie. So you're gonna see every teeny tiny little thing, but when you're just looking at it on the table, that thing is gonna look cool and terrifying, and hopefully all of your players simultaneously pee their pants at the same time. And it'll be gross, but it'll be awesome. Well, that pretty much sums up the video, everyone. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry it's been such a long time since I put out a video. I'm hoping to get them done more regularly moving forward. But if you want to show your support, you can watch more videos. Be sure to like this one, subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications. I got a Patreon page where I will be uploading the completely unedited version of me painting this guy. It's not completely unedited because it wasn't one sitting, so I did take out like the boring parts where I'm not actually painting. It's just the camera filming the model for 15 minutes while I wandered away and got a sandwich or something. But it's all the painting parts, and it's like a half an hour long. So if you want to check that out, it's on my Patreon page if you want to subscribe to me on Patreon. In the meantime, I hope to do some more cool videos. My next one, I think I'll be doing this guy. I'll paint this guy. This is like the third try to paint him because I didn't like it last time, but we're going to do that. And until then, I will see you in the next episode. Be cool and go to school, because it rhymes, so it's better that way.